Hey guys, it's Kate and I'm back with another video. So, today's video, I'm going to be talking about my book club books that I read over the past, I think it was 2 months. So, my friend Kirsten and I go to the same church and we wanted to do a life group and we both like to read, so we decided that we were going to do a book club life group. These are both books that I've heard like a lot of really good things about, but I've just never personally read them. One of them I actually put in a video like years ago for eagle-eyed viewers, and I was like, oh, I'm going to read this book this year, and then I never read it. I don't think I read any of those books, by the way, because last year was really the first time that I like really started reading for real. So anything that was like about reading in the past, just yeah, just ignore, because none of that is actually true. So, like I said, we started a life group. It is called Book Besties. I believe that this week is our last week. And it's been super fun. A lot of the girls that joined were just saying like they joined because they want to read more and they're trying to start more of a reading journey. So it's been cool to kind of like help people get into their reading journey, because I feel like you have to really just like start somewhere and it kind of just clicks for you. And I feel like these were two really good book options. So I feel like this was a really good place to start for people that are just trying to get into reading. But since I know that some of you like to read, I figured that I would just talk to you guys about the books, what I liked about them, if I think that you should read them, etc., etc. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So the first book that we read was a Christian nonfiction, and it sort of falls more within like the self-help or developmental category. So this book is Uninvited by Lisa Turkhurst. And before you say it, I know I am incredibly late to the game. I know this. I know that I'm very, very late. I know that a lot of people have read and loved this book, and I know that it is very beloved among women. I know these things. But like I said, I did not start reading for real until last year. So please give me a break, because I knew this book was going to be good. I knew it was going to be good. I just never actually read it. Okay. But I had it and I knew it was going to be good. So let's talk about it. As you can see, I highlighted so much in this book, so I don't even really know where to start. I don't want to just like tell you guys what the book is about, because I want you guys to feel encouraged to read these books. So I'm thinking I might read like a few quotes that I liked and just kind of like discuss the overall premise of the book. So this book is called Uninvited, and the byline, I suppose you could say, I'm not really sure like what this is called down here, like tagline, byline. Um, Anyways, it's living loved when you feel less than, left out, and lonely. So I feel like this book, people probably see it and think it's going to be like a pity party, or it's just going to be about like people that feel left out, or feel like they don't have friends or whatever. It's not really about that. It's kind of just about how like as women we can sometimes like project how we feel about ourselves onto other people and assume that just because we see ourselves one way, everyone else sees us that way too. And it can cause us to sort of not be able to be in a room and feel comfortable, because we're so concerned with what everyone else is thinking, when really it's just us that's thinking that and nobody else is really thinking that. The author is very vulnerable in just sharing like many different experiences where she felt very like embarrassed to walk into a room, or she just felt very out of place in a situation, and just kind of the things that led to her feeling that way. So, one of the things that she talks about is her father leaving her family at a young age and sort of always having that wound of not having a father. And I think a lot of people can really relate to that, whether it be your father or your mother. I know a lot of people in my own life that have that parent sized wound, whether it be that their parent left, or their parent passed away, or their parent simply was just not present. I think that that's something that a lot of people can really relate to and understand, that when you are missing that parental love, you will start to seek it in other places. And sometimes it's not even something that we can recognize. It's something that is truly in our subconscious, that we are seeking for the love that we did not receive as children. It's literally psychological. Like, there are studies done on these things. And so she really opens up about, just feeling unloved by her father, and then her father leaving their family and just always having that wound. She talks about a broken relationship and just kind of how that made her feel, just losing a long term relationship that she thought was going to end up in marriage. And I think that many of us can probably relate to that as well, when you sort of put all your eggs into one basket, so to speak. And when things don't go your way, it's like your world is literally shattering. And so, like I said, I really appreciated that she was so vulnerable in talking about these things. But she also talks about how these things sort of led to her having this distorted sense of self and sort of seeing herself through a different lens, whether that was like a victim lens or this lens of, nobody likes me, I don't fit in, I don't have friends. And I feel like a lot of us can get ourselves into that mentality. I know that I myself have been in that mentality a time or two, because so many things will happen that are out of your control, that the one thing that you can control is the way that you think and the way that you feel. And so you're like, yeah, everybody hates me because this one thing happened to me. And it's like, it's very weird. And it almost is like a form of self centeredness to make things like so about yourself and about how other people feel about you. And even just walking into a room and assuming like nobody in here likes me. Like you don't even know that. Like you're literally just like thinking so deeply about yourself that you're not considering that maybe nobody in here is even really thinking about you at all. So she kind of dives into that, but I kind of thought that I would read you guys just some quotes that I liked about the book. So she kind of just talks about how the way that we feel about ourselves really comes out through our words. And I know for myself, I use humor as a crutch a lot. I use humor in different situations to make myself feel more comfortable, to make other people feel more comfortable. It's funny, a couple weeks ago, I was with my pastor's wife and she was like, you don't always have to be the funny girl. And I was like, oh, clocked, clocked. Like she clocked my tea for real. But yeah. So she kind of talks about this in the book and just how what we really feel about ourselves will come out through the way that we talk about ourselves. And other people can sense this and other people can kind of see those insecurities, even if you feel like you're doing a good job hiding them. So this quote says, if you want to know what's really inside a person, listen carefully to the words she speaks. Recently, the Lord made sure I had an acute awareness of what some of my own words reveal. And so she sort of just talks about how when she gets angry or something, she says things like, oh, I never do anything right. And it's like, yeah, you just feel that way in this moment, but you have this deeper feeling inside of you that, yeah, I really don't do anything right. And for that reason, this is why all of these things happened. And so she kind of just talks about like learning to control your tongue, learning to control your mind, and learning to live loved is another, big theme of the book, is when you realize how much the Lord loves you and how much he wants to protect you and he loves you as his daughter, you stop talking about yourself in that way because you're the daughter of a king. Why are you talking about yourself that way? Another thing she said was, I talked about myself in ways I would never let another person. Hints of self rejection laced my thoughts and poisoned my words more than I cared to admit. I was like, clocked. One of the things that she said that I really resonated with was, I feel treasured when complimented, but tormented when criticized. And personally, for me, my main love language is words of affirmation. And words to me are like honey. Words are like medicine to my soul, to my heart. And so when someone uses their words in a negative way towards me, it can really hurt me because that is the way that I receive love. And so I always joke like, you could punch me in the face and I wouldn't care, which don't. Seriously, please don't. Like, I don't even know why I said that. I always say that, like, you could punch me in the face and I wouldn't care, but if you say something mean to me, it's going to stick with me for a long time. And that's just how my brain has always been. And so, for whatever reason, like, I just feel like insults can hold more weight than compliments with certain people. And you could be told all these amazing things about yourself, but if someone is, tearing you down or making you feel less than, those are the things that you're going to hold on to, especially if your love language is words of affirmation. Because I recently learned, I don't know if this is related to psychology or whatever, but basically the hypothesis is that whatever your love language is, the opposite of that is the way that you're going to feel the most rejected. So if your love language is physical touch, and even just nothing inappropriate, but just simply you like when people, touch your arm when they talk to you, or hold on to you, or hold your hand, or hug you, or, just different little gestures, but you're with a partner that withholds their physical affection from you, whether that even be just, like I said, holding your hand, setting their hand on your arm or your leg or whatever. If they're not doing those things, it can sort of cause you to spiral and feel like this person does not love me because they're not loving you in the way that you receive it. We are completely going off topic here, but basically, I liked a lot of the things in this book because it reminded me of just thoughts that I've had or just things that I've heard. Also, she doesn't just obviously talk about relatable things in that sense. Like, she also really discusses like how can we combat these feelings, and how can we learn that God loves us so much that we should also love ourselves. And we shouldn't always assume that other people don't love us or don't care about us. One of the quotes that I really liked was, "The more intimacy like this that I have with God, the more secure my true identity is." When we go to the truth instead of our feelings for the answer to this question, we can understand God's goodness in a whole new light. Another quote was, "No person's rejection can ever exempt me from God's love for me. The most beautiful love story ever written is the one that you were made to live with God." And she's just a very eloquent speaker, writer. I mean, she writes a lot of beautiful things. I will say she's very much giving millennial at times. Sorry to all the millennials out there, but like, you know exactly what I mean. You do. So there's like certain things that I'm kind of like, girl, you did not need to say that. Like, sometimes she'll talk about like cellulite and just like go like way too deep into it. And I'm like, I'm an oversharer myself, but why did you feel like you needed to share that? You know what I mean? But I will say, like, there's a little bit of like, okay, millennialism going on in this book because it was written like several years ago, but I feel like the overall message is worth putting up with the small moments of cringe. Live from the abundant place that you are loved, and you won't find yourself begging others for scraps of love. If you feel like this is something that could resonate with you, I really recommend picking up the book. I mean, hearing people's responses in the book club to just how the book was making them feel, and how the book was making them reevaluate previous situations in their lives, or just how it was making them look at themselves differently. It was so interesting. And so I definitely recommend checking the book out. There's so much more that I could say. I don't want to like give away the whole book, but I will say like it was just a very good read, very encouraging, very refreshing. And if there are certain things that you find yourself struggling with that sort of go along with the lines of this book, I would definitely take the time to check it out because it is a very well written, very well intentioned book. And I think that many women can definitely relate to this and also get something big out of it, because I know that our life group felt very encouraged. And I just really appreciated everyone sharing their true thoughts and their true emotions on what we were reading, and just being willing to be vulnerable with each other. And side note, if your church has life groups and you have not joined a life group, you seriously need to, because we were not made to do life alone. And I know that's kind of like every church's like tagline as far as life groups, but seriously, like, you were not made to go through life alone. And I know just from different things that were shared through the life group, it's a lot of women's true desire to have a true friendship and a true intimacy with other women, because there is something that you can get from being with other women that you just cannot get from being with men. Because, don't take that the wrong way, but women understand women on more emotional levels. And so deep down, every woman just truly wants a best friend or a close friend that will love them and listen to them and be there for them. And so if this is something that you desire, something that you want for your life, I truly recommend just putting yourself out there in your church community and joining a life group, because I know that this is a deep desire. But I also would say bring your petitions to the Lord. If you want a close best friend, if you seek a close friendship and intimacy with another friend, that someone that can have your back and, have this loyalty, be in your corner, God knows and God wants to give you the desires of your heart. So if that's something that you desire, make your requests known to the Lord. Don't be embarrassed because God already knows your thoughts. So if you're thinking to yourself, like, man, I really wish I had a close best friend. I really wish that I had someone that I could have these deep conversations with and someone that I could feel close to. Just simply, instead of just saying that or thinking that, bring those thoughts to the Lord and just let Him know, like, God, I want a best friend. I want someone that I can be close to. And I truly believe that God will give that to you. Okay, this next book that I read, I am like very late to the game. I know this. I know this. I acknowledge this because I think this book came out in the 90s. Okay, so this is Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. If you are a Christian young woman and you have not been living under a rock, you have probably heard of this book and you've probably read it. I feel like I'm very late to the game. I know this. I will say the book club has had a very hard time reading this. I think that diving into fiction is, it seems to be not going well for them. But I personally read this in a week. I completely just ignored our schedule that we made and just went past all the dates because I was loving it and I was fully immersed in the world. And I did see the movie several years ago and I liked the movie. I thought it was really good, but now that I've read the book, I'm like, "Oh, now I understand why fans of the book were like, this movie is not that good." Because I had never read the book. So to me, like, yeah, this is good stuff. But yeah, I will say the book is way better than the movie. So if you've seen the movie and you liked it, I think you'd love the book. It is sort of based off the story in the Bible about the prophet Hosea and his wife Gomer. If you don't know that story, so God basically tells Hosea to marry a prostitute, essentially, which is this woman, Gomer. And Gomer just continues to leave him and betray him. And all the while, he continues to love her. And God sort of like shows him how to love her. It's one of those stories in the Bible that you read and you're like, yeah, but like, I'd never do that. I would never do that. You know what I mean? But this book is, in fact, based off of Hosea and Gomer. So this book is about a man named Michael Hosea who sees this prostitute named Angel, thinks that she's so beautiful, and feels the Lord sort of put her on his heart to marry her. And he's like, really, God? Like, I've been waiting, I've been saving myself, I've been doing all these things, and you want me to marry a prostitute? And he's like, yep. So he's like, okay, cool. Thank you. So he starts going. This sounds so random. You have to read the book. But he starts going to the brothel and essentially he's trying to court her. And she's obviously not used to this. So she sort of keeps trying to like proposition him. And he's like, no, I'm not here for that. I'm just here to get to know you. And she's like, no, I actually don't want to get to know you like you and every other guy. Like, just get what you came for and leave. And he's like, no, I came here for you. And she's like, no. And he basically ends up convincing her to marry him. And he takes her back to, his countryside cabin. And this is like Gold Rush, California, 1800s. She gets like very injured when she's leaving the brothel and he nurses her back to health and he doesn't like pressure her into anything. He's very respectful of her boundaries, even though she's not very respectful and she does not respect herself. And she's constantly trying to sort of like push what she knows about men onto him. And of course, she kind of leaves him multiple times or tries to leave him or tries to hurt him. And each time he just continues to love her. It is sort of a deeper allegory about the love that God has for us and how there is truly nothing that we can do to earn it, because whether we're trying to or not, some of our actions really do hurt God and they do make him feel, like we don't love him or like we are doing these things on purpose. But God will continue to sort of chase us down and continue to love us regardless of what we do or regardless of the fact that we could never earn those things. As you can see, I highlighted a lot and I am not typically a fiction highlighter. Like I will highlight in, nonfiction or developmental books, but I'm not typically a fiction highlighter. But this book, y'all, this book had me weeping.
I'm reading chapter 13 and I'm literally bawling. This book is so emotional.
For real, like literally bawling my eyes out, weeping, like, Lord, thank you so much. You love me so much. I'm so thankful. And even just realizing different things about myself and the way that I operate in relationships, I was like, okay, Lord, clocked. I feel like if you are a single woman and you want to learn more about like what you deserve, but also the way that God loves you, I totally recommend checking this book out. And of course, you learn more about the character of Angel and why she's the way she is and why it is so hard for her to receive love or feel like she deserves it. It's definitely not like, oh, Michael's this hero and Angel's a villain. Like, no, it goes very much in depth about both characters' backstories and other characters as well, and just kind of why they are the way that they are and why it is so hard for them to be trusting. And it's a beautiful book. It's one of those books that I almost feel like you need to just not really know the premise in order to read it, because the premise does sound so wild that it's like, why would I read that? But it's like, no, seriously, just take any preconceived notions that you have out of your head and genuinely just like go for it. Like, it's such a beautiful book. And I could not. I literally was crying so much. And I was crying so much while I was reading Uninvited as well. I think I might just be like a very emotional person, but genuinely, like, beautiful story, beautiful book. And the cool thing about Francine Rivers is that before she became a Christian, she was writing romance books. So she's very good at writing like romantic storylines. She's very good at conveying like the tension between the two characters or the attraction between the two characters. But the cool thing about it is it's obviously closed door romance, whatever you'd say. So it's not going to have any sort of explicit scenes or any inappropriate scenes that you'd have to worry about, despite the fact that she is a prostitute. But I do like that about her because it does very much read like a love story, a romance book at times. And I personally love that. So definitely recommend. And if you have not read it, if you are living under a rock like me, I definitely recommend checking it out. That is all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I sincerely hope that you will check these books out because I truly believe that they will bless you and that you will definitely get something out of them. They're not just like leisurely reads. They are very powerful books with very much powerful and deeper messages that I feel like women can definitely receive something from. And just learning more about the way that God loves you and the way that you should love other people and the way that you should love yourself. Let me know if you've read these books and what your thoughts on them are, or if you plan on reading them after this video. You can also let me know any videos that you'd like to see from me in the future, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys!